about to get torn up. Prepare yourselves for the Vaping Militia.
And now for your hosts, Mondo, Robin, and Knock.
Welcome to the Vaping Militia Radio Show. I am your host, and we are here today. We're going to be talking about a big earthquake that happened in California. Not so big, probably a 5.2. Other things on the agenda, and we'll be talking all about that really, really soon. Let me bring in Noct. Noct, how are you tonight?
Same shit, different day.
You know, I was talking to myself right now, and I was going through this whole thing, and I probably Noct heard me, and he's probably wondering, why didn't you just repeat yourself?
I actually did.
Yeah, I forgot. There was a little button I accidentally hit called the mute button. While I was getting into the thing, and I noticed like this little this yellow light looking at me. I'm like, damn.
Well, you know, I used Spreaker for my podcast over at Smoke Free Radio, and to tell you the truth, last week I did exactly the same thing, except that I went for about 5 minutes, and I wasn't looking at the chat room, and there were like 20 people in the chat room, and I looked over and I said, oh shit, they can't hear me. So nobody's perfect.
You know what? It's funny. Technology, we have it in front of us. It works really well when you're doing it right and everything goes off without a hitch. And then when the hitches happen, you're like, damn. And I seen it, and I was like, okay, that's just a yellow button looking at me. And I was like, dude, it's mute. My brain just told me, dude, you're on mute. So all that stuff you just said, got to say it again. So, yes, there was an earthquake in California.
Boom.
5.2. People are asking, well, what's that got to do with vaping? Well, the earthquake that really happened in California was that a big vape shop called Local Vapes moved out of California and is moving into Arizona. That is a small earthquake happening. It's almost like Mountain Baker Vapor moving from Washington to Arizona.
Well, Local Vape is actually moving to Las Vegas.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
That's
Las Vegas.
what is that? What state is that? That's
Nevada.
Nevada, yeah.
Now, my thing is that they should have moved to Arizona because they're more vape friendly than Las Vegas.
Well, is Arizona is further east, correct?
A little bit, yeah. They're a little further east, and Nevada's more northeast.
Well, I mean, and this is not, in any way, shape, or form judging Local Vape, but Las Vegas seems to be more of a fun place. I mean, there's definitely more of a lifestyle. It's maybe probably their niche. Plus, they still want to be as far west as possible so they can say they're the West Coast.
True. Also, it seems to be a California blackout going on. There's other people starting to either quit their vape shops or close them down, moving out. A lot of people are, different vape shops are moving out. And it has to do all with these 6 bills that came down and got written into law in California. It really was a big thing for California vape shops, and it's almost just another, nail in the coffin for vaping.
I really see the vape scene in California really adjusting, changing, adapting, and in some places, yes, people moving out. I really don't hope for that. I really hope that there's a way that we can fix this situation over there. But I just saw today, you mentioned Mount Baker, but I just saw today that they posted that they will no longer be accepting orders from California. They won't be shipping into California anymore.
Wow, that's a big thing right there.
Right. It's kind of, and we have a couple dead zones, vaping dead zones, where you can't, or vendors are choosing not to ship into or, to people in those states. I mean, Indiana is going to be one of those places where a lot of vendors are not going to ship in there because they don't have the certificate necessary to be able to sell product within that state. And the law in Indiana is probably the worst to us for the industry that I've ever seen. As far as I know, there's only 6 vendors in the state that have met the requirements to be able to sell their product. And I mean, the law is written in such a way that if you are caught in Indiana, if you say are on vacation and you buy e-liquid in a state,
right?
Say you're in, you go to Pennsylvania and you buy e-liquid made in Pennsylvania, and then you come back to Indiana. If for some reason somebody decides to ask you what you're vaping, or they see you vaping or filling your tank from an e-liquid that is not one of those 6, they can actually cite you for that. They can confiscate it.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of companies, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of the out-of-state Indiana vapor industry businesses have signed on to the right to be smoke-free attorney or lawsuit in Indiana to stop that, because it's hindering their business within the state of Indiana. There's a lot of big companies that have signed on to that because they want to be able to sell their product in that state, and they're not going to be able to once this law becomes active. And I'm not sure what the date is. I believe it's in July.
So it's not just a California blackout that's happening. It's also in different states that have passed some really grueling bills against vaping. Not just California. Indiana's got some really bad vaping laws right now on the books. And we know some vendors from Indiana that we've talked to and voiced their concerns of what they're trying to get accomplished, and hopefully they'll get through. But then they have to jump through those hoops. Mm-hmm. And then they got to jump through FDA hoops.
Right. So if we have been very vocal that we cannot lose sight of all of the different battlefields that we're fighting in.
No.
We cannot just stare at the FDA, because, we have states that are trying to kill us. And let's be clear, that Indiana law, they tried to repeat that same law in Georgia. And
yes.
If it hadn't been for a very active state group trying to defeat it and getting on the ground quickly, that bill possibly could have passed in another state. And here's the thing. We're playing dominoes.
Yes,
and
we are.
If one domino falls, it's gonna cause a chain reaction.
Because it's easier for another state just to duplicate what somebody already put out.
Yeah, they have model legislation. All they have to do is cut and paste it into a Word document and change the code numbers or whatever, and
Change some verbiage.
they don't even have to change any verbiage really, as long as there's no clauses in there that counteract or contradict any existing laws. They can just pass the same shit. And to be clear, there are businesses that are not vape businesses that are going to benefit from that bill, from the Indiana bill. The security company that's involved, and they lobbied heavily to get this bill passed, and they were one of the companies that took that bill to Georgia and tried to get it to pass in Georgia.
So they'd be the only country in Georgia.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on that we don't have all the details on. And that particular situation is not helpful to anybody. Well, California, there's the same thing. There are organizations and companies that are going to benefit from this, and to be clear, one of the things that was instituted is a Tobacco 21 law, which hurts, in my opinion. It doesn't help anybody that's a smoker.
No,
because those people that are between the ages of 18 and 21 that had given up smoking are no longer going to be able to vape. And I guarantee you, enforcement in California is going to be much more stringent on the vape businesses than it is on the convenience stores.
Yes.
Where I used to buy cigarettes before I was 18.
This just goes to show you, Noct, that we're so worried. We have people in position right now to fight the FDA. Let them fight the FDA. We have people and we have companies and we have, coalitions or whatever that are doing that work, okay? The consumer all of a sudden now wants to be. I've seen all this like infighting that's happening. All of a sudden they want to be an expert on the FDA, which they're not. But what they're doing, and what I see they're doing is they're leaving their states to just go ahead and do whatever they want, and they're not fighting their states anymore. They're forgetting about it temporarily. I see it. That's my opinion. I see it. So let's be careful not just to just focus on the FDA, but to focus on our states and those states that have, sessions right now that are trying to pass bills still. And and then we have to take it down a little level to our communities, our city councils that can still pass ordinances that will harm you as a vapor.
Well, I mean, we each have a specific role to play when it comes to advocacy.
Yes.
The consumer level, we definitely have consumer issues that we want and need that may not always play in the vendor world. And I'm sorry, but there definitely needs to be a line between consumer and vendor.
I agree.
The vendor, they need to protect their business. Whether they decide, as far as I'm concerned, as a vendor, if I was in this industry, I would participate in a trade group. I would do my research. I would find out which one their philosophy matched my philosophy the best, and that's who I would support. But let's put it out here. It's not their job to protect your individual business. It is your responsibility as that business owner to do the research, to fight for your business on an individual level. And, you may not agree 100% with everything that your organization that you're a member of says, but they have attorneys that are going to be doing what they need to do to protect the industry as a whole. And lots of guys in this industry, lots of businesses are just listening to the trade org, and they're not doing any independent research. If if the trade organization attorney is in error with his interpretation, wouldn't it have been better if you had your own attorney to look at this and say, I think he's wrong. I think this is the right way?
Yep.
You should definitely participate with a trade organization, but you should also be aware that you need to protect your industry, your business, and you should follow up behind them. If you're not smart enough, if you don't know all the stuff, hire somebody that is. Because at the end of the day, we have competing organizations that might have different interpretations. If there's two interpretations, I guarantee you there's probably a third or a fourth or a fifth. And, just because, we fight doesn't mean that one org is better than another or whatever. If I was in this industry, I would have trade representation in an organization, but I would definitely have my own attorney look at stuff, because there's too many places where there's an error that could easily be made, and your business is at risk.
So let me ask you this, Nog, and this is something that I've heard over a small span of time, maybe in the last 2 weeks, since it seems like vapors are melting down and just starting to go after everybody and anybody. There are some that believe that lawsuits from different places, like we have the Lost Arts Liquid lawsuit, we have the industry-backed lawsuit that's happening, we have the Nicopure Labs lawsuit. Do you feel that these lawsuits, and I think there's one more coming out. I think I read something somewhere that there's another lawsuit coming out.
The industry, the right to be smoke free lawsuit has not been filed yet.
Okay,
so they're edging towards it. They said it would be in the coming weeks. There's the two that are already filed,
yes,
the Lost Art and Nicopure. There is also this pending thing from the Right to Be Smoke Free Coalition. And then there are two cigar manufacturers that have also filed suit.
Yeah, because we forget the cigar industry is being lumped in with our industry on this same deeming reg. Do you feel that sometimes these other lawsuits can be counterproductive at all? Or can they hinder or do anything to hurt said industry?
It depends on how similar their points are. If they're attacking the same issues, and if they're filed in different districts or different regions, because there's several district courts across the United States, federal district courts. If their suits are too similar, the judge can, they can actually enjoin they can put them together.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Also,
in regular lawsuits.
If they're very similar and they don't put them together, and the one in, say one is filed in California and one is filed in New York, we'll just pick the two, East Coast, West Coast. If the one in California happens more quickly and we lose, if the federal judge in California says you haven't, there's no suit here or whatever, and you lose, it can nullify the East Coast suit if they're that similar. So hopefully these are spaced out far enough that because instead of filing two separate lawsuits, if they're that similar, then the two plaintiffs should have filed one together. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now, if they're different, then it's fine. If their points are completely different, or if they're coming at a different angle or whatever, that's okay. But they can theoretically, one suit could ruin another suit if they don't pay attention to what's going on, and that's probably one of the reasons why the Right to Be Smoke Free coalition suit hasn't been filed more quickly, is because they're paying attention to the other suits. They're looking at those documents and making sure that their arguments are not the same.
Which is smart, because exactly as you explained, one can nullify the other, and we definitely don't want to see that happen.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the infighting that's happening is getting pretty intense. If anyone is a part of some of the groups on Facebook and Vaping, you'll notice that there's a lot of things being said, a lot of things being thrown around, people getting hurt feelings over some things, and some people are getting enraged and fighting back, and it's almost like a small bloodbath going on Facebook in these groups. Kind of reminds me of something like you said earlier. It kind of reminds me of that movie Mean Girls. If you're not part of our group, then you can't do this, or you can't say this, or because you're not in the in crowd, you shouldn't do anything or shouldn't go on and try to help in any way.
Right. And here's my thing. If you notice, keep an eye at the criticism, at the people that are vocal, that are people that are the voices of division. They use an argument about unity, but really and truly they're really preaching division. The thing is the people that are using that argument are not the people that are in the coalition. I haven't seen CASA, I haven't seen SAFADA, I haven't seen any of those organizations come out and attack any effort from somebody other that's not in their organization. I haven't seen SAFADA come out and make any sort of derogatory statements about efforts started by somebody outside of their coalition. I haven't seen CASA come out and say, don't do this or don't support this. Those are not the people that are actually being butthurt, for a better word. The organizations are not attacking each other.
Right.
It's people that want to see some sort of, and here's my thing. I was talking today with somebody, and they were talking about a summit, a leadership summit, where all the leaders from all of the organizations got into a room and talked about stuff, a strategy session or whatever. Now, for this to be anything constructive, for this to be a real beneficial thing for the industry, it would have to be behind closed doors. Everybody's complaining that there's no transparency in some of these organizations or whatever, but this would have to be done behind the scenes. If you put all those people that you're wanting to have together and you put them on a stage, you're not getting the real work from them. That's just a photo op.
Right.
So for this to be anything worth doing, it would have to be done behind the scenes. And depending on what they talked about, you may not know what they talked about, because if it's lawsuit stuff or if it's other things, they can't talk about it until it's done. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I do.
So what people want is they want to see all these people standing on a stage shaking hands, because a lot of this stuff can't be done in the open.
No, it cannot be.
If we're talking about legislative stuff, if we're talking about writing bills, if we're talking about lawsuit stuff, all that stuff has to be done in the background. All that stuff has to be done behind the scenes. So basically everybody just wants there to be some sort of happy party on a stage so that people can take pictures and people can feel good. I really don't know. I mean, I do think that a secret advocacy summit needs to happen. But as far as I'm concerned, when it happens, nobody needs to know about it until we are picking the fruits of their labor. So I don't know. I mean, other than Julie Wassner posted in CASA the other day because people were maligning VTA. Julie Wassner posted in the open, in public. We have no problem. If we ever need to work with VTA, we will do it. So I don't know.
You know
what
what
we hope to achieve. That's what I want to know.
What my thing is, what we hope to achieve by all this, rhetoric and backbiting and everything. What I notice is this: the VTA. There's a lot of people coming against that organization, and I don't see what the problem is. Sometimes this is politics. We're playing with the big boys. Washington is not a place where it's a safe haven. They fight in those places. They do what they have to do to get things done, right?
Yep.
And when you go and play politics, if you're not ready to make that fight, then you don't need to be in there. And I think they're ready to make this fight. They're ready to go in there. They're ready to do what they got to do. They will have to make different, allies and everything to see if we can do something about these deeming regs.
Well, and by and large, the people that are in that organization, they aren't the people that are doing the work. I mean, there are small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and large businesses that are members of that organization, but their board is largely comprised of, we have a guy that used to be a big tobacco lobbyist. We have a guy that works for a small tobacco company. We have a flavor manufacturing guy. There's large vendors in there with Nicopure and so forth. These are all what I would say, for lack of a better word, they're hired guns. So these are professionals,
what you need,
are skilled at fighting the government.
Yes. So so you have a used to be a big tobacco lobbyist. So this guy knows the ins and outs. He knows now he's they going against big tobacco and trying to help work with the vaping industry. They know the ins and outs of what is going to happen. So why wouldn't you not get somebody like that? Because they already know what's going on. You're not going to get the guy down the street with the vape shop who's very passionate about vaping to be a lobbyist that doesn't know anything about anything. You want to get those guys in there that will do the job that they're, like you said, as the hired gun.
I mean, I can guarantee you that some of those people on that board are not vapors.
They don't have to be.
They're like I said, they were hired for a specific task. They are. I don't want to use the word experts in their fields, but they are very skilled at what they do. And yes, some of them worked for big tobacco companies in the past. But you know what? I used to work for McDonald's. Does that mean that my loyalty will be to McDonald's in my future efforts? Fuck no.
I didn't know you worked at McDonald's.
Back in college, 30 years ago.
Were you one of the first guys that was started this $15 raise?
Sir, when I worked at McDonald's, minimum wage was like $4.25 an hour. So,
you're the guy. You want fries with that?
No, I actually never got to work the counter. I was the cook. I worked on the grill.
Oh, so you dropped the burgers and just dusted them off and put it back on the grill?
I picked my nose while I was there, and lots of disgusting stuff.
I knew you did something like
that. But I mean, of course, and I can guarantee you there are people in this industry that are vaping e-liquid manufacturers that if you went into their past and saw what they did in the past, you probably wouldn't want to be their friend, and you probably wouldn't want to do business with them. But everybody gets second chances. You know what? I know for a fact there are some e-liquid guys that are convicts that have done bad things. Maybe some of it was very bad. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. But, they're trying to pick themselves up and make better. So why can't we allow these guys to try to save our industry? Because as far as I'm concerned, I will support any effort that I feel has a chance. And, I'm here to save vaping. I'm not here to care where the help comes from.
Oh, yeah.
If we can save vaping, if we can get the predicate date, which is the most important thing right now, changed, that gives us time to work on all the other shit that we need to do.
Yeah, whatever it does to get this going, get it done.
Because you got to realize HR 2058 may not be dead now, but after December, when the new Congress starts, it's dead because Cole is going to have to, bring it back. Because the bills that don't get through by that date have to be reintroduced. Cole Bishop, same thing. If the ag bill doesn't pass, or if it gets negotiated out, then we have to start all over from square one on January 1.
Yeah.
So
we have an uphill battle is what we have. We have a very big
we have I'm confident, even if HR 2058 doesn't pass before the end of this session and it has to be reintroduced next session, we're already starting with 60, I think it's 60 co-sponsors.
Right.
I don't know the process if when they reintroduce that bill, if those 60 co-sponsors automatically get added on to the reintroduced bill. But we already have a list of 60 names that we can call and say, hey, you signed on to the bill last session. Will you sign on to the bill this session? Problem is, there's an election between now and then. Some of those guys may not be around then.
True that. Now let's move on. Let's talk about this Cole Bishop amendment that in the ag bill. Now, there's something else in there that people don't like about it. Something about battery safety or some kind of a battery language that's in there.
Well, there's several riders that are added on. There's some language in there that people don't like. There's the battery issue.
Yes.
There's advertisement issue. There's labeling things on there, I think. But it seems to be that most people are latching on to the battery thing.
Now, what does it actually say? Do we know exactly what it's saying? Is it saying you have to have this certain battery, or is it deferring that to somebody else?
Well, it's instructing the FDA to create battery safety, safe battery manufacturing standards or whatever.
Right.
Which the idea is that, I'll bring this up. Demetrius said on my show the other day when he was in D.C., one of the politicians that they were speaking to brought up all these stories about battery problems and people getting hurt. And, sure, it has happened, but if you look at the number of actual explosions, it's very small. But if you look at the number of articles about battery explosions, it's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, there may have only been, say, 10 episodes last year or this year of batteries exploding. But there have been 5,000 to 6,000 articles
on the same 10
about those same 10 instances. So if you look at it statistically, it is a very small number, but it has to do with the public perception, has to do with the amount of press it gets.
Which we're losing. We've lost that public perception.
Yes. But essentially, the FDA already has authority to create battery standards because the deeming gave them the ability to create manufacturing standards for anything that they deemed a tobacco product. They already said that they're going to deem batteries sold in vape shops for the intent to be used as in a vaping device to be a tobacco product. So they were already going to do it. The thing is the FDA doesn't have a deadline for creating those standards. So it could take 5, 6, 10 years for them to do it.
And you got to think about it. Sony even came out with a letter saying you're using our batteries for these vaping devices, and they're not meant for that. They're meant to go in packs for laptops, and they're meant to be in packs, not individual batteries being used in these devices.
Right, and they even sent a cease and they even sent a cease and desist letter to a vape company
Yes.
saying, do not sell our batteries because we don't want you selling our batteries.
They even went as far as saying you need to get those batteries back from the customers you sold them to.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty damn serious right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a liability for them. It's a liability issue.
Right. And I can see that being a liability issue.
I mean, even though I think legally they're in the clear, but they don't want to even have the pain in the ass to try to defend it. So they just said, stop selling our batteries, get the batteries that you sold back, and, we don't want you doing it anymore.
So along those lines, Knocked, there was a question asked today on Facebook. And this has to go with battery safety, because if you look at it, a lot of this stuff happening recently, there's a lot of egos. They're saying that are blowing up in people's faces. One actually said blinded some kid. There's another one, but a lot of them have to do with certain mods. And there was a question posed today on Facebook that are mech mods even relevant or should be even within 2016? Is that what the question was? What was the actual question on that?
I mean, you essentially got it right. It's do we need? I mean, are they relevant? Are they important anymore? And I'll just throw it out there. Greg Conley, who, in my opinion, well, not my opinion, I'll just say it. Greg is not what most of us would consider to be an advanced vapor. He uses like a cool fire or, one of these small regulated devices with a looks like a Nautilus. I'm looking at a picture of him the other day. It's not. He doesn't know all this stuff.
Right.
So, he posted on Facebook 8 hours ago. Serious question. Why are mechanical mods still needed in 2016? At this point, they seem like more trouble than they're worth. Is there anyone out there who would not have quit smoking had a mech mod not been available? And then he even edited it because somebody posted a comment. Clarification to the above question. Here in 2016, are there people who wouldn't quit smoking if mech mods were voluntarily no longer being sold? I understand years ago they were innovative and wonderful.
Right.
So that was the entirety of his post.
Now, there are some that came out that didn't like that. They didn't really like what he said about it, thought it was a rip on mech mods, which it was not a rip on mech mods. He was asking a question if they are relevant because of battery safety, maybe?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming that, yes. I mean, the issue is in most of the situations where we've seen mods exploding, I was at an event, it's been 2 years ago now, where there was a cloud comp going on stage, and off to the side of the stage, this was not a member of the cloud competition. There was a vapor, and apparently his mech mod in his pocket overheated, whether the firing button got stuck or whatever, it overheated, and he reached into his pocket, pulled it out, and threw it on the ground. And when it did, it exploded and shot into the ceiling and stuck into the ceiling. And there were shrapnel all over the floor. There was, it was not very good. And that was 2 years ago. I mean, obviously the technology has changed drastically in the last 2 years. But the point is are mech mods a liability to the future of vaping? I mean, that's really what this question is.
They might be. I don't know if they're going to get rid of them. I don't know if the FDA is going to say, hey, you can't have a mech mod. Some people say, well, you know what? This is just a battery tube or a flashlight, or, you can't stop people from making, tubes with a CNC machine, and we can use them as flashlights. You can have all that. I understand all that, but in the sense that it could be because of what's happening. They want the FDA to address, and they want the government to address these things that are blowing up. The vaping, the mech mods are blowing up, but not just mech mods. We can't just put it all on that. There's egos that are blowing up too. People are plugging them into their cars and they're blowing up. But on the flip side of that coin, people are plugging in their phones, their iPhones and their Android phones, and they're exploding in their cars. So,
well, here's the thing about that. Yes, the egos. There's been a few over the last few years stories of people's egos exploding. Which, when researched, the vast majority of those that occurred have been when people were charging them with the wrong charging stuff, the wrong cable or the wrong wall wart.
An ego burned down my house, type shit.
Yeah, and usually it's because people don't understand. You have to look on your wall wart. Everybody knows what a wall wart is.
Why don't you explain it to them?
The thing that you plug your USB cable into that plugs into the wall is a wall wart.
There you go.
But it has on there an amp rating.
Yes, it does.
On that. And you need to know what the amp rating is on your device, or it will overcharge your device. It'll send too many amps to your device and cause it to explode, which is not a good thing. Or we saw there was a video like a year and a half, 2 years ago of a bar in the UK where somebody was charging their device with their computer.
Yes, I remember that.
And we know that there's USB. What are we up to? USB 3 now?
3.0. Yes.
Okay, so USB 3, USB 2, USB 1, all of those have different amp ratings. And you have to know what your device is capable of.
Consumers are not that way. They're not going to research that. They're going to think, oh, I'm just going to plug it in and that's it. That happens, and this is the results of that.
Yes, but that is that the person that sold them's error?
That's what consumers think.
Well, here's the thing, though. If there were some sort of safety requirement that your charging cable didn't have a USB plug, and that it was a UL Labs rated wall plug with the correct attachment that goes into your device, and you couldn't use a separate wall wart. You had to use say your cable had a 3-prong plug on the end, and you couldn't use a wall wart. Would that have solved those problems?
Maybe.
If there was
not.
a standard that said you have to use this kind of plug and you can't use a USB cable anymore, would that solve the problem?
No.
You don't think?
I don't think so.
I think if they came with a...
I just want to be different.
Well, I think you're wrong. I think if there was a standard that said you can't use a USB plug to charge your device, that your devices must be manufactured with a set style of plug, those wouldn't happen anymore, because the end user wouldn't make the mistake of trying to plug a different kind of cable into their fucking device.
Yeah, it's funny because you look at it and you're dealing with people that don't really, they just think, okay, this is like my cell phone, I'm just going to plug it in, and I don't think they really care about if there's amperage when they should be, because it is their responsibility. It's funny because I think about this. Sometimes you go and buy something like a TV, or you buy a electronic device or electronic good. Sometimes, I don't know if you notice this, when you open up the box and you're taking out everything, there is a flyer in there that in big bold words saying, if your device does not work right, please don't take it back to the store. Please call this number. That had to be put in there at some point, because why? Because people go out and say, I'm taking it back to the store. And the store's like, hey, we have nothing to do with that. You have to talk to that company. And so at some point, they're having to print this flyer out and put it in their packaging saying, please don't take it back to the store. It's almost kind of like the same thing. People don't care. They see a USB. Oh yeah, it's USB. It's a mini USB here. Let me plug it in. I got one right here. And you're not supposed to use it for that. And you plug it in and all of a sudden, boom, it blows.
There is one, solution, and this is an old solution when it comes to some of these battery problems.
Okay.
There used to be a thing called a 2-cent vape safe fuse.
Yes.
And you have one. At least I know you have at least one.
Yeah, I do.
That magnetically sticks to the bottom of your battery when you put it inside your mech mod. And it prevents your battery from overcharging or over discharging.
Yep, it's like a sensor.
It's a safety feature. And, I have some mech mods, and I vape using them sometimes.
Yep, I do too.
Because I like them. I think they're cool looking. I still use, tube mods because I like them. But, I never vape below 1 ohm. And B, I have vape safes. But these are, I don't even know if they still make them.
You know what? You're right. I don't know if they still make
I haven't
those.
seen them in a long time. I know of one supplier that makes handmade pipes, e-pipes.
Yes. Yeah,
that
e-pipes,
includes one in every pipe he sells.
That's why
you have one.
Yeah, because I bought e-pipes. Yep.
So that alone, that one safety thing, if every person that makes mech mods included that in every package that he sent, then he could say he was doing his due diligence to make sure that battery safety was important.
That's too much money for them to do.
It's like, they're not very expensive.
Yeah, you know how they are. You know how vape shops are. They can't even, there's a vape bag, like a battery bag, those safe bags.
I haven't seen those in years either. I mean, that's how old we are.
Yeah, and then you could put your charger in there and your batteries and charge them, and if anything happened, it would stay contained in that bag.
Yeah, it would prevent the fire from spreading.
And people don't use, I thought maybe, hey, let's make an idea. Let's start promoting that. Nobody gives a shit about that.
Yeah, I think at one point we talked about even getting the Vaping Militia logo on one.
Yeah.
To sell as a fundraiser. But yeah, I mean, I've not seen one of those in a long time.
Because nobody cares about that shit. They just, let me do my vaping the way I want to with my, 0.00014 ohm dragon coil with a twisted top. That's what they care about, and it's sad. So in the last 10 minutes, let's talk about this. Smoky Mountain Vapes came out with a blog. Is it a blog that they came out with?
This is a blog. The author contacted me earlier today, and he sent me a draft of this, and he asked me what my opinion was. And this goes along with what we were talking about earlier about losing the battle of public perception.
Yes.
And what are we trying to do to correct that, to try to win the hearts and the minds of the non-smoker to our side? Because every story, we just talked about it, a story, the number of negative stories about devices exploding is thousands of times more than the actual occurrences of people having batteries explode. It's because we don't have a way to reach the press in a positive way, and those negative stories are filling the public perception, filling the media, and getting into people's heads. I mean, I think it's because it's glamorous that magazines and newspapers and news websites like to produce things that are sexy and controversial, and coming out and saying negative things about vaping is cool, so they get clicks. And that's the thing, is they like their clicks.
Yeah, and they run those articles within the clicks.
Mm-hmm. They're paid by the number of views, because the advertisers want people to click off of that article and they want to have an ad on that page, get a click.
And I noticed that how they do it. They do it with these propaganda style news titles. And it's the titles that these people are getting them sucked in to click on those. You see them all the time on Facebook where it says this kid went outside to play baseball and this happened, and then it's like, okay, what happened? So you click on it. It's clickbait.
Yeah.
And this is how they do it with vaping and blowing up in the vaping world and whatever has been done. Brain cancer. Vaping gives you brain cancer. That's a title. And people click on it.
Or vaping is as addictive as heroin. Remember that one?
That was a good one.
I like that one. So anyway, Smoky Mountain Vapes, which has been putting out some very decent quality blogs recently. They've got a really good dedicated blogger on there. And, I'm a little upset that I don't have as much time as I want to write blogs. But every blog that we've ever posted on our website today, right now, is still as relevant as it was 2 years ago when we wrote it. And there's shit that are in our blogs that are 2 years old that people need to read now, because we've been saying all sorts of stuff that people are just now picking up on. But anyway, this blog is exactly about trying to win the hearts and the minds of the non-smoker. Ooh. So it starts out, and it's called Operation Righteous Voice. And it says something that you can do right now for free to save vaping. And it is a multiple level campaign that they want to do. They want people to participate in to help spread positive stuff about vaping, to help get non-smokers involved and educated about vaping, and to counter all the negative stuff. So there's a couple bullet points on here, and he's got on here, this is a for a detailed explanation of how this campaign works, see my post. And he's driving people to a blog that he wrote, Understanding the FDA's Final Rule, Deeming Vapor Products as Tobacco, and What to Do Now. So anyway, there's a couple bullet points. It says, first bullet point is vaping doesn't have the support of the general public, who are by majority non-smokers. We must fix this before we can get the support of lawmakers and even judges who rely on public opinion more than facts to make decisions. Mm. Non-smokers are easily manipulated by false anti-vaping news, largely because they don't like smoke and they don't have any personal interest in vaping, which is true. I mean, the vast majority of people in America don't like smoking. They don't like it. It smells. It's just not something that they like. They would prefer that, smoking disappeared. It's not that easy though. And smokers are demonized.
They are. And when was it Representative Duncan Hunter? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Remember when he vaped in the chambers there, and that lady was blowing, like waving her arm, like get away from
she didn't want. And yeah, I mean, and vaping is the new smoking. I mean, when it comes to public perception and the way people look at it, I saw somebody post today, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. And they're looking at us and they're saying, well, it looks like smoke, so it must be a duck.
So what is his solution to all this?
So the solution is that he wants us, the vapors, to use social media to reach out in a positive way, to spread the message of truth, to engage the non-smoking majority and get them to understand vaping, that it's in their best interest. And it's something that they should want to protect because, in my opinion, this is a life-saving miracle that has the potential to save 1 billion lives, if not more. And that's the thing. If, you write a post on your wall, because I can guarantee you everybody that you know that's on your Facebook can't possibly, I mean, you might have a lot of friends that are vapors, but not every one of them is a vapor.
No.
And if you just post something positive about vaping on your wall, you're going to reach people. And if you reach the right person, they might share it. And then they're going to reach more people. And then maybe one person in that group shares it. And eventually it's going to snowball. And he has on here that we should change the current talking points in the minds of the majority. The talking points are currently and reprehensibly, vapors are dirty drug pushers who are douchebags, and they target children and have no regard for public safety. I mean, that's essentially the message that most non-smokers in the general public are getting about vaping, just because they're just reading the headlines. So we have to change those talking points, which should be that vaping is better than smoking. Vaping has the potential to save billions of lives.
Yes.
And that it does not harm the bystander, that we are not marketing to children, all those things. So he has a plan, and it's multi-phased. There's 4 phases. So he has written a letter.
It is a long letter.
It is a long letter.
What, about 10 paragraphs?
That we should. He wants us to distribute this open letter to the public via personal copy and paste posts, and flood Facebook with it, print it out and post it on your corkboard at work, mail it to your political figures, get in front of every non-smoking eye everywhere. Now, I, for one, over the past 3 years, have posted letter writing campaigns with sample letters on the Vaping Militia Facebook or the Vaping Militia website, trying to get vapors to write their politicians. By and large, I feel like those were failures. Even if we got 1,000 people to write letters in the United States, I don't know that any of those letters, because I asked people, if you get a response, please let me know. And I'll tell you, I think because I started a separate email account just to collect the responses. If I go to that over the past 3 years with all of those multiple letter writing campaigns, I think I got 3 or 4 responses back.
Wow.
So
it just shows you people are not ready to do anything.
Well, and this is now, Damnation Day is coming.
Doom, 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 doom.
I mean, I'm really hoping that maybe times have changed and people will be more energized. We've seen an uptick in people participating in CASA calls to action. However, that's usually just,
I hate to tell you this,
fill in your name, fill in your address, put in your email.
I just feel like people are more, in fire to criticize now than they are trying to do something like this. This is too much work for them. And I love the way it's put out. He gives you each phase. It's phase 1, you're going to do this. Phase 2, we need to do this. Phase 3, we need to do this. And phase 4, we need to do this. And people rather be on, keyboard cowboys and say, oh, no, you're doing it wrong. And you are not talking for us. And you're not part of our clique. So you need to stop what you're doing. And you're going to hurt everybody. And you're going to hurt the industry. And all this blah, blah, blah. And we got someone who writes his blog. It's a long blog. Yes, I see. But he's trying to put something out good. And it's just, I just feel that, I'm going to do this.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I'm
actually going to people to get out and do it. I hope that maybe something will spark them to do something like this. But what you said in the past, in the last 3 years, your letter writing campaigns, and that email address is still vacant.
Yeah,
it's sad. It's sad because this is what we should be doing. But unfortunately, we're not. So any last words from you, Knock, before we get out of here?
I want everybody to in the spirit of unity, I really think that people need to look inside, look inward, and focus on what you can do to save vaping. Don't worry about what somebody else is doing. For this next 7-day period, everybody that listens to my voice should take this time to do something positive, to protect this industry, to protect consumer access, and make sure that we can save those smokers. And I don't care what it is. If you take your phone or your tablet with you and you go and hang out at the vape shop, and as people are done with their sale and they're standing there hanging out at the vape shop, ask, are you a new vapor? Do you know about CASA? Are you a member of CASA? Well, here's my phone. Sign up. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And you're going to get an email. And they don't spam you. I mean, I've been a member of CASA for years, and I can count the number of times that they've sent me an email exactly once a month for that period of time. And additionally, anytime that there's something in Texas that I need to deal with, they don't spam you. People are always afraid to do stuff because they're afraid that their information is going to get shared or that they're going to get spammed. CASA doesn't do that. Do that. If you see somebody being negative about vaping, whether it's, I don't like Safada, or I don't like VTA, or I don't trust this Larry Faircloth guy, redirect them. Find them, tell them, find something positive to do with your energy in a nice way. Why are we constantly bitching and moaning at each other? Why are we always having to post negative comments on social media? Why do we feel like we have to do that? We have enough shit to deal with. Why don't we just be positive? Let's work towards a common goal, guys. Because if this goes away, you may be able to vape. You may be able to find people to mix you e-liquid. But what about those smokers that we're fucking leaving behind? We're ignoring them. And those guys are the people we should be focusing on.
True. And, there's a lot of people that are trying to do something positive for the vaping industry. And, they get accused for you're gonna fuck things up, or, you're going to cause, division and all that stuff. Let's just keep it together, people. We need to keep it together. I see after the deeming regs came down, everybody just went fucking ballistic, and you see the meltdowns and people just tearing their hair. It's almost like that movie Airplane. I don't know if you guys seen that movie Airplane, when they finally told everybody that, hey, the plane's going to go down, and the whole place just erupts, and there's papers flying everywhere, and people are running up and down the aisles. And that's how I see what happened when they finally dropped the demon regs, and everyone just went fucking ballistic like crazy. And, oh, you didn't do enough, and advocacy people are just blowhards, and they didn't do enough for us, and everything. And this is why a lot of the main organizations just said, calm down, just take a deep breath, because they didn't want to incite any more stuff. They wanted everyone to get a little bit cooled down, because there were a lot of accusations. There was accusations against CASA. There was accusations against, Safada and other organizations. And it just got really bad at that time. So right now, as we still have a lot of people criticizing and stuff, it's fine. There's many times somebody says something and I want to respond, and I say, no, it's not worth it. Why should I keep this going? Why should I keep this fire burning? Let it extinguish itself. Let them say what they got to say and just move on. It's be the better person and move on. That's all I got to say tonight. So I want to thank everyone who tuned into the show. Knocked again. Thank you for always being a good co-host. This is the Vaping Militia Radio Show, and you're listening to us on Spreaker. And you can listen to this podcast on SoundCloud at our website, thevapingmilitia.org. Also on Facebook. We post this on Facebook after it's been published. And we are also now on iTunes. So there's multiple places to see us. We also have YouTube? I think there's a YouTube.
Yes, we have a YouTube.
Yeah. So we're getting it out there, and hopefully these shows will continue because I think they're educational, and they also get out the word of what's happening in the vaping community as we see it. This is TVMR signing off. Good night, everyone.